What if I told you that the greatest empire in human history didn't collapse because of war, but because of wealth? That Rome, the empire that ruled continents, built wonders, and shaped civilization itself, was destroyed not by swords, not by enemies, but by comfort and greed. It sounds unbelievable. How could the richest, most powerful society the world had ever seen fall to pieces from within? The answer isn't simple. It's not a single event. It's a pattern. A pattern that repeats in every great empire, and the most terrifying part is that we're repeating it right now. But before we uncover the final warning, before we draw the line between ancient Rome and our modern world, let's go back to the beginning, to the moment where greatness began and corruption quietly followed. And if you're fascinated by history, patterns of power, and the hidden forces shaping our world, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who thinks history doesn't repeat, because by the end, you'll see it always does. Rome began humbly, not as an empire, but as a republic, a collection of farmers, soldiers, and builders united by discipline and shared purpose. They called it virtues, courage, duty, and loyalty to the state. No kings, no tyrants, no corruption. Power was balanced between the Senate and the citizens. Rome's rise was built on simplicity and sacrifice. Every citizen was a soldier when needed, and every soldier was expected to return home and rebuild what he defended. That cycle of struggle, victory, and renewal created a civilization built on responsibility. But success changes everything. After defeating Carthage, Rome became the richest power in the known world. Carthage's gold, slaves, and trade routes poured into the city. The spoils of victory turned simplicity into decadence. Senators, once proud to serve for honor, began serving for profit. Ordinary soldiers came home to find their small farms bought by the rich and replaced by massive estates worked by slaves. The divide between rich and poor widened. Rome's citizens, the very backbone of its army and its virtue, were slowly replaced by the poor masses, dependent on handouts. Two brothers, Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus, saw what was happening. They tried to restore balance, proposing land reforms and fairer wealth distribution. But the Senate, fattened on greed, crushed them. Both brothers were murdered. A warning that reform was more dangerous than corruption. That was the first crack in the Republic. Rome's laws remained, but its spirit had begun to die. Rome's greatest strength became its addiction, conquest. War became business. Each victory brought more slaves, more gold, more taxes. Senators funded wars for profit, and generals used victory to buy loyalty. And then came a name history would never forget: Julius Caesar. Caesar understood something dangerous. Rome's loyalty could be bought. Feed the poor, entertain the masses, forgive debts, and you owned their hearts. He borrowed heavily from Rome's richest banker, Crassus, and spent it on feasts, public works, and games. He became not just a leader, but a brand, the first populist in history. The Senate panicked. They accused him of tyranny and demanded he give up his army. Caesar's answer was rebellion. He crossed the Rubicon River with his legions, declaring war on the Republic itself. When he emerged victorious, the people cheered. They didn't care about laws anymore. They cared about results. The Republic died, and the Empire was born. It was a trade the world would pay for centuries later. Rome gained order, but lost accountability. Power was no longer shared, it was owned. Under Augustus, Caesar's heir, the empire entered its golden age, the Pax Romana. For nearly 2 centuries, Rome was unmatched. Trade, art, architecture, and law flourished. The Roman legions kept peace across continents, and the people believed the empire was eternal. But golden ages are deceptive. The marble shines brightest right before it cracks. To maintain peace, emperors had to keep everyone satisfied. The army with gold, the elite with privileges, and the people with food and entertainment. When the treasury ran low, the emperors turned to the easiest trick in the book: printing money. Rome's coin, the silver denarius, once held almost pure silver. But to fund endless expenses, emperors began mixing it with cheaper metals. The silver content dropped from 98% to less than 5%. Inflation exploded. A loaf of bread that once cost 1 coin now cost 100. Prices soared, but salaries didn't. The people cried for help, and the emperors answered. with more free grain and more circus games. The poet Juvenal wrote the phrase that still defines political distraction: panem et circenses, bread and circuses. Keep the stomach full and the eyes entertained, and no one will notice the decay. The same city that once produced soldiers now produced spectators. The same citizens who once built empires now demanded entertainment. Rome's wealth became its poison. By the 2nd century, the empire's machine was unsustainable, the economy was crumbling, and the army, once Rome's pride, had become its biggest expense. To keep the legions loyal, emperors promised higher pay, land, and pensions they couldn't afford. Taxes on the provinces skyrocketed, corruption spread like wildfire. Governors extorted citizens, soldiers looted towns, and trade routes began to dry up. The greed that once conquered the world was now devouring the empire itself. Then came Emperor Nero, a man who ruled not with logic, but with lust and luxury. He drained the treasury on palaces, gold statues, and personal concerts. When the money ran out, he raised taxes and even melted Rome's own monuments for metal. When the Great Fire of Rome erupted, legend says Nero watched the flames and sang. Whether myth or truth, it symbolized something real. The emperor's madness mirrored the empire's soul. After Nero, emperors came and went through assassination and bribery. The Praetorian Guard, supposed to protect the emperor, began auctioning the throne to the highest bidder. In 193 CE, they sold the entire empire to a wealthy senator, Didius Julianus, like it was a house on the market. Rome had officially lost its honor. The idea of virtues, courage, discipline, duty, was gone. In its place stood greed, corruption, and fear. As the empire's borders strained, new threats emerged. Germanic tribes pressed from the north, Persians from the east, and rebellion flared in the provinces. Rome tried to hold everything together, with more soldiers, more taxes, and more lies. Inflation spiraled so badly that Emperor Diocletian issued a price control edict, trying to freeze prices and wages by force. It failed miserably. The economy collapsed further. Black markets flourished. Later, Constantine shifted the empire's capital east to Byzantium, renaming it Constantinople. For a while it worked. The east grew rich while the west decayed, but the disease had already spread. By 476 CE, the Western Roman Empire collapsed completely. The city that once ruled the world now belonged to mercenaries. No single event destroyed Rome. It was a chain reaction. The loss of virtue led to greed. Greed led to corruption. Corruption led to decay. And decay led to collapse. Every fix was temporary because the disease was moral, not mechanical. Modern parallels. The pattern repeats. So, why does this story matter now? Because the pattern didn't die with Rome. It never does. Look around. Today, we live in an age of abundance, global trade, digital wealth, and technological power beyond imagination. But the same cracks are appearing. Currencies are being printed at record rates. In the last century alone, the US dollar has lost over 96% of its purchasing power. National debts are measured in trillions. The gap between rich and poor widens every year. The middle class, the backbone of every stable society, is shrinking. Meanwhile, entertainment has replaced engagement. Distraction has replaced discipline. Bread and circuses have simply become screens and algorithms. Rome's debased silver coin is our printed dollar. Their free grain is our government stimulus. Their circuses are our endless social feeds. The faces have changed, the pattern has not. And just like Rome, modern powers believe they are untouchable. But every empire that thought the pattern wouldn't repeat was wrong. So what can we learn from Rome before the pattern completes again? Lesson 1. Greed erodes purpose. Rome forgot what made it strong: duty, sacrifice, and unity. Once wealth became the only goal, corruption became the only outcome. Lesson 2. Money is trust. Rome's collapse began the day it devalued its currency. When leaders manipulate money to buy peace, they destroy the foundation of the state. Once faith in the currency is lost, everything built on it collapses. Lesson 3. Comfort breeds decay. Every empire begins with struggle and ends with entertainment. When people stop building and start consuming, the countdown begins. Rome didn't fall overnight. It eroded for centuries. One compromise, one coin, one corrupt law at a time. And today, we are walking the same path. History doesn't ask us to repeat it. It dares us not to. The real question is, will we learn from it before it's too late? And if you believe in uncovering truth, in connecting the dots between past and present, like the video, subscribe to the channel, because every empire ignores history until it becomes history.